Hello, TheSuffolkRam from Randowns. Welcome to my review of Doctor Who Series 12, Episode 1, Spyfall, Part 1. There may be some minor spoilers ahead, so if you don't have anything spoiled, please turn off now. So as you probably guessed from the title, Spyfall is Doctor Who's take on what happens when Doctor Who meets James Bond. Again, the title obviously gives that away clearly. We follow the story of a load of spies, for not just MI6, but for all the boss spies across the globe, being killed mysteriously in a very bizarre way. And the Doctor as companion and interrupting the Doctor's downtime while their companions are in their lives. They get pulled in and drawn in by the head of MI6, C, played by Stephen Fry, who basically says, "Anyone's been killed. Please help us, we don't know what's going on." Doctor pretty quickly realises it's some sort of alien interference, and it's confirmed very shortly afterwards when aliens attack. So, not going too much further to risk causing too much spoilers for us. As it is basically Doctor Who meets James Bond. It hits all the sort of riffs, you've got in it, the big sort of bad guy sort of hint at right from the very start. This guy who played Daniel Barton, who is head of VOR, which is basically Google, Facebook, Twitter, all these things, all rolled into one big group, mainly obviously Google. There's a lot of pushing at the criticism of big corporations that are using our data, and they don't have our best interests at heart. Well, let's face it, they don't. We've seen that with the Facebook scandals and Google's various infractions and various other social media sites infractions. And it's obviously a play on this. What happens when these companies are so big that they are more dominant than world governments? So it's a play on that a little bit, and which fits in nicely with the whole spy theme. What was the James Bond film that did it? Was it Tomorrow Never Dies? James Bond film where he took on the evil spy guy, evil media Mongol guy. I can't remember his name. I can't remember which one it was. I think it's Tomorrow Never Dies. I'm not so up on the James Bond films, but it hits all the beats of a spy film. So you've got car chases, you've got like a big party, tuxedos, but thrown in with some aliens to mix, and it's actually a very enjoyable romp. It's definitely so much more true to form, so much better compared to most episodes we had last year. Not last year, year before. I say last year, I mean the year before. It just feels a lot tighter together. It feels a lot more well written. I was a bit concerned when I saw Chris Chibnall was writing it. I thought, he's had a bit of a shaky track record. I think that's a generous thing to say about his track record when it comes to writing. But this really feels nice and tightly wound together. It doesn't feel stretched out. It feels nicely paced. For the first part, it did feel like they are putting in lots of filler. It felt like a nice logical progression of how the Doctor investigates here, how they split the team up and gradually highlighting this threat the Doctor's never seen before and has to deal with. It's quite disconcerting, it's quite insane. And it ends on a funny cliffhanger. The cliffhanger it ends in is not the cliffhanger you expect. It hints at about 3 cliffhangers towards the end. And every time you hear the cliffhanger come, you think, "Oh, this is going to be it," but it never quite hits. And then the one that actually ends on is like, "Oh, that's actually a bit of a not quite what I was expecting. A bit of a sort of minor cliffhanger." But you see what they're all trying to do. But at least 3 times I thought, "Oh, it's going to end now. Here it is. Here's the bit. Here's the moment it's going to end. Oh no, they're carrying on. Oh no. Oh no. Here it carries on." And some of the jeopardy that was put in at the end, there's one right moment at the end where a jeopardy is put in and you think it's going to be to the wires, cut down cliffhanger, and in actual fact that doesn't, that just expires within the episode itself. But I have to say, I actually was very pleasantly surprised. I was going with a little bit of trepidation about the whole situation, but I felt it was very well done, and I was very pleasantly surprised by how well it was done. So I have to say, I actually really, really enjoyed this episode. I'm looking forward to Sunday when we see episode 2 to see how it concludes. And by then we'll also be able to talk about the cliffhanger at the end. So cast-wise, so you've got the obviously main cast, Jodie Whittaker coming back as the Doctor. I was quite liked her. I felt she suffered a bit from bad writing last season. As I think actually she had a lot of. She was doing the best of what she had. It feels much sort of Colin Baker of Classic Who, where he wasn't actually that bad. Actually, he was just lumbered with quite a lot of rubbish scripts, basically. She feels more like the Doctor in this series. She feels more like... Last year she didn't feel too doctory in many places. This one she feels more like Doctor. I can't quite explain why. It just feels better. And it feels like she makes more sense as the Doctor in this series. So I'm quite enjoying it. Graham, played by Bradley Walsh, is back. Now, I was planning to watch the previous season then before watching this to sort of refresh myself with the characters, but I never got a chance to. But for some reason, Graham feels a little bit more foolish. I don't remember him being... He has a lot of moments where basically people sort of mock him for, like... He'll say something like, yeah, we know, Graham. And it felt a little bit like he's being treated more like a fool, which doesn't seem too much how I remember his character being, which feels a little bit odd. But having said that, it's been a while since I watched this. It was over a year. I've not watched it since the last broadcast, so I might be just misremembering him. Ryan and Yasmin, played by Toshin Cole and Amanda Gill, both return. And they work quite well. They sort of paired off quite early on to deal with the situation. They bounce each other quite nice and compliment each other quite easily. Ryan's still a little bit foolish, heart of gold, but he makes some foolish mistakes. Although Yasmin is a bit over cocky and makes some rather fundamental mistakes, I thought quite on. I must admit, they did seem to hold the idiot ball at certain points. When they're trying to get past some security systems, and they seem to not understand the concept of CCTV, and and I thought, yeah, you're sort of throwing yourself in the deep end there, so wasn't so keen on them. Stephen Fry's in it, but he's actually in it not as much as you think, and also, so Stephen Fry, who hasn't been in Doctor Who technically before, well, that's not quite true. He was in a webcast, which was basically like a short animated... You don't know what webcast is. It's like a short animated, not properly animated. It's more like sort of fixed pictures, but occasionally the characters move. The interface. I can't describe how to describe it. It's some sort of like light animation. BBC produced a number of these webcasts early 2000s as sort of like a experiment in form of media and presenting it. They did several, and he was in one of those back in 2001. Lenny Henry again hasn't been Doctor Who before, though. He did do a parody sketch back in the 1980s, mid-80s, in his show. He did like a parody sketch of Doctor Who where he fought off, from memory, a Margaret Thatcher Cyberman, I believe, or someone who looked a bit like Margaret Thatcher. Yeah, I vaguely remember that. Well, I don't remember, I was born then, but I remember seeing it. It was on a video cassette because Failed Death had it all on. I remember that back then. I'll find if there's a I'll see if I can find the link to it. There must be a YouTube video. I'll try and link it in the description if I can. Then there's a chap called O. Now, I must admit, I didn't recognise the actor, and unfortunately, I've had a quick look and I can't find the actor's name. I didn't hang on to see the credits, and I've looked on the various IMDb pages and I can't find his name, so I can't say. But he portrays an interesting character. He comes off a bit slightly... I don't use the right, that's the wrong word to use. He comes off a little bit that's perhaps not good with people. He comes off a bit sort of like he's not comfortable in social situations, and he plays it, and he felt like a very genuine character. And I thought his character was quite enjoyable, quite good. And he bounced off some good ideas, and he's this worked at ex sort of not spy, but worked at MI6 type chap, and yeah, he was quite good in it as well. So we'll obviously look forward to seeing more of those characters in part 2 on Sunday. So production-wise, so we're back. So this first episode, I called it episode 1 rather than the New Year special because it's basically episode 1 of the new series of Who. Set prior, and it's the first episode of the new series, which will be returned to a Sunday slot, which still feels very weird to me to have Doctor Who on a Sunday, but that's the time they've decided. The next episode is actually this Sunday. I didn't look at the time, but it's going to be this Sunday, so that's when you can catch up with that as well. So also from memory, the first broadcast that I've had, I actually quickly looked through the previous series. It's the first time I've actually broadcast a whole season, actually sort of in the winter time. We've often had it in sort of April time or sort of later part of the year, sort of like December time, sort of late autumn, December time. But it feels very weird seeing it actually broadcast in winter, so it's going to really throw my year plan about by this, and I feel very strange, but they each quite do something different. Director is directed by Jamie Stone, and they've previously directed a short for Doctor Who, Clara on the TARDIS. They've also directed this episode 5 and episode 10. Strange enough, not episode 2 from what I looked it up, which is a bit strange, but there you go. And episode 9 and 10, sorry. So they're doing quite a bit of chunk actually, because there's only 10 episodes a season, so they're doing 40% directing, which is quite a fair chunk. It's written by Chris Chibnall, as I spoke earlier. He's had numerous episodes, and I've always felt his episodes weren't quite as good as I think they could have been. I think his writing is very variable. He's had some good ones. He's also had quite a lot of pause, and his writing for the previous season was not, I think it's fair to say, it was not brilliant. It was some of it was okay. This feels a lot more a slight bare standard. Special effects wise, I see some nifty sort of scenes. There's a couple of car chases in it, which I think were done quite nicely and quite early on. Some really not Hollywood level scene, but felt very sort of for Tuesday. Felt very good. I was quite impressed by them. Found them quite enjoyable. The monsters are quite interesting. They're sort of this strange of outright form that hasn't quite got a sort of script shape to it, and when they move through things, they sort of like take the texture. So you walk through like a wooden wall, they sort of like the wood wall sort of just temporarily sort of pushes itself all over them, which I found quite interesting. It's sort of like they actually sort of absorb some of the sort of environment around them. I found that quite interesting. And they just are weird. When they're sort of teleporting in, when they appear, it is slightly freaky. They are really simple. It's a really simple design, but feel quite freaky. So actually, yeah, I really like the monster design this one, and look forward to seeing more of them on Sunday. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this review. If you have, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you don't want to, that's fine. We also have things on here, mainly podcasts. Our next podcast is actually this Saturday. We are going to be discussing games and so forth. We might even do a little bit of a special episode this Saturday. So come join us for that. There'll be a live stream on YouTube, or there'll also be a live stream on Twitch you can watch at the same time. If not, look forward to seeing you. Hopefully you'll come join me for my review of part 2 of Spyfall on Sunday, which will be up shortly after the episode airs. And until then, I'll see you then. So thank you very much for watching. I'm TheSuffolkRam. See you later.